Well, I don't know about you, but one of the number one mistakes I was making in the past was having a decor that was too small. So tip number one is to nail the scale. Trying to make arrangements with a bunch of little things seldom works out, but having one piece that makes a statement makes a huge difference. In her new book, House Rules, McQuillan Smith has this to say. She says, scale. Instead of deciding to change out the small item for something larger, for some crazy reason, our natural tendency is to add more small items, and it affects everything from lamp choices to the scale of furniture in a large room. So today I'm going to share some of my favorite design tips and mistakes that I have learned through trial and error over the years, and also some really great tips from McQuillan Smith's new book, House Rules. They are so good. Everything from why your curtain rods are completely the wrong height to how to intentionally style a gallery wall. So if you often wonder why you just can't get design right in your house, these tips will work for you in any space, on any budget, and using what you already have. Now again, this idea of scale is why I've said in the past that I no longer buy things from the Target dollar spot. Often you'll notice that the stuff in there is really cute, it's trendy, it's current, but once you get it home, it never looks quite right. And like McQuillan said, you often feel like you have to group a bunch of these pieces together to have it show up or make any kind of statement at all. So instead, we want to learn to get something that's a bigger scale, to even use one item in place of a bunch of smaller items. And this applies to whether you're styling your dining table, a coffee table, or the size of throw pillows. We're gonna put these on the couch coming up with some of our other tips too. McQuillan also has another rule that she calls the pineapple rule that goes along with this. She said she's learned that when it comes to home decor, she rarely ever gets anything that's smaller than a pineapple. So remember, it might look really cute in the store, but if it's smaller than a pineapple, it's probably not gonna be able to stand on its own. Tip number two is one of my favorites. Don't gallery wall by accident. So this is number 59 in McQuillan's new book. Again, it's called House Rules. It comes out today, and it's 100 interior design rules that she has learned through all of her experience. It's beautiful, and it's really fun to read these rules because these are the little changes that make a big difference in how our house feels. And you know how when you look at a gallery wall and you're like, well, that doesn't feel right. I think most of us have tried to create some kind of gallery wall in our home, and it did not work out. So here's what McQuillan has to say about gallery walls. Now I've learned that gallery walls are the highest level of wall art styling. Creating a cohesive grouping of items and hanging them in a way that's pleasing is difficult and takes intention. And 99% of the time, you will have to purchase additional items to get the look you want. You want all of your pieces to feel related in a few ways, maybe frame style or color or scale or subject. Using every piece of art you can get your hands on is not a plan unless you don't care how your gallery wall looks. And so I hope that helps you to understand if you've kind of failed at a gallery wall in the past. I know I have multiple times. That it does require some skill and some cohesiveness. One way to make a gallery wall look cohesive is to have all of your frames match. I finally decided to order mixed tiles. This is not sponsored. The jury is still out. I'm not sure like if I'm sold on this. The beauty of mixed tiles, so it's where you can order the pictures already framed. It's easy. You can very easily make a cohesive gallery wall. They stick to the wall. I mean, the way that they mount is genius. So the easiest way ever to make a gallery wall is to just order something like this. What's the trade-off? They're expensive. Like this was an investment, right? This is something I have been thinking about for over a year because we've had this wall here and I wanted to put something here. Now, this next rule is one I've learned over the years, and it's called the 60-30-10 rule, and it's how we create color balance in our spaces. I've always been interested in interior design ever since I was watching Trading Spaces in college, and I would watch it at college, and then I'd go home to my parents' farmhouse and I would try out these different things that they were doing. And honestly, a couple things worked, but most of them didn't. And it was because I didn't actually know the design rules. It wasn't until later I went back to school for graphic design and I started learning design rules about color balance and contrast. We have a great contrast rule coming up too. And that's when I started to realize that there are rules to interior design. And what's great is that we can all learn them. And that's my hope with sharing these with you today. But for me, the 60-30-10 rule is also known as the kitchen stool rule because I could not figure out why I couldn't get the color of our stools right. So when we did our most recent remodel on our kitchen and we decided to paint our lower cabinets blue, I wanted to have an accent color. I wanted our kitchen to have some personality and be fun. And so we had red bar stools. And so I brought the red bar stools in and I'm like, well, that like red can go with blue. And I had some other red accents on our open shelves. I liked how it looked on the open shelves, but the stools never felt right, and it left our kitchen feeling very patriotic. So eventually I was like, I'm gonna get different stools, but I didn't know what color to get. And then I learned the 60-30-10 rule. So what this rule says is that your main color is 60%. So in our kitchen, that 60% color is a white or a neutral shade, like the wall color or the subway tile. And then the next color we have 30% of. So given that our lower cabinets are painted blue, that next color was automatically chosen as blue. But then here's the kicker. Our accent color should only be 10%. So I decided to order blue stools because I actually wanted them to blend in with the island, because any color on the stools was more than 10%, especially when I added it to the open shelves as well. So that's where I'd been going wrong. Our kitchen couldn't handle the accent color on the stools as well. So we have blue stools, which is great because now I can very easily change the accent color on our open shelves. So it changes different seasons. Currently it's kind of this mauvish pink color, which is kind of fun, but very easy to switch out. And that is my 10%. And when that is all in balance, our kitchen feels cohesive and it feels good. Not like in the past where I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. And I also came across this great blog post that I'll link to. They have lots of fun, different examples on here of different interior design in this 60-30-10 rule. It's so fun to see all the different ways that it can play out in our spaces. Look at this green kitchen. I would love a kitchen like this. If we ever repaint our cabinets, I might try to do a color like that. It's so fun. So rules number 4 and 5, I'm going to group together and illustrate them with our curtain rods. So rule number 4 is contrast is queen if you want to be seen. And then rule number 5 is drapes cover the wall, not the windows. I mean, put this into the category of things we never learned in school, right? But let's first talk about contrast, because this is another thing that I learned in graphic design. So here's what McQuillan has to say about contrast. Contrast allows things to get the attention they deserve and brings items you want to be noticed to the forefront. There are times though when you actually don't want to see something, like when you have a piece that you don't love but have to use anyway. So the next time you're choosing a pillow or wall art or fabric for your drapes, ask yourself if you want it to actually be seen or to disappear into the background. So first let's talk about the contrast, and then I'll talk about the height of our curtain rods. So in the past we had black curtain rods and blue curtains in here. I had thought it'd be nice again to pull in a little more color, but what I realized that this room is fairly small and I actually want the window treatments to blend into the walls. I very intentionally have light colored curtains, so I want the rods and the curtains just to blend in. It's part of my goal to make this room feel bigger, is just to have very light curtains, rods, have it all blend in, and that really helps it to feel lighter and brighter and more spacious in here. And so I'm glad to have the white rods because they'll blend in with the wall. I don't want to draw attention to them and I don't want them to stand out. But let's talk about number 5, that drapes are meant to cover the walls, not the windows, because this is something I'd never learned but couldn't figure out why they didn't look quite right. So McQuillan is teaching us that there's 2 types of drapes. Decorative drapes, often referred to as curtains, are just eye candy. Functional drapes have a job to do, such as shading from the sunlight or providing privacy. Decorative drapes are not intended or created to ever actually be closed over the window. So if your drapes consist of 1 layer of fabric, they probably are meant to be decorative. If they were functional, they would need a second layer of lining to protect them from the sun. So that's helpful to know. And again, we want the drapes to be outside of the window. Okay, so I have the curtains to put back up. Another thing we learned is that curtains go beside the window, not in front of the window. And if your rods are already hung, if you have enough length in your rod, you can kind of cheat it a little bit and stretch it out this way to kind of fake it that your curtains and rods are out further than the window. We actually want the window, like most of the window to show. So that means we have to extend the rod out past the windows. So this is something that I've been learning. We haven't quite achieved it yet with these windows, but also let's talk about the height of the rod, because this makes a big difference as well. Often a well-meaning builder or husband will install a skinny little drapery rod 1 inch above the top of the window glass, and if you're lucky, a few inches outside the window trim. This does no favors for your windows. I promise, if you upgrade to functional or decorative drapes that can be hung higher and wider, you'll feel like you got a window enlargement, a light booster, and the ceiling raised, all for the price of buying longer drapes and reinstalling your curtain rod correctly. So we're still working on some new projects in our house based on some of this new information that I'm learning. So I'm gonna be excited to share some of the final products with you in an upcoming video. But if you've ever felt like your curtains and your windows don't look quite right, take a look at where the drapes are falling and how high is your curtain rod. Okay, now this tip number 6, it blew my mind when I learned it, and that is to zigzag your accent color when you're styling open shelves, bookshelves, or any kind of built-in. So often when we go to style a shelf like this, we just start putting stuff up, but there's no rhyme or reason. And so when I learned this trick to zigzag your accent color, it made all the difference. Now, I've had a few different colors on here over the years. You can see it in the mustard color. It's really obvious here when I had blue things on here, and most recently I've done it with this mauve color as well. But it's really helpful because it gives you a starting point. So again, when you go to style, ask yourself, what is my accent color, or what is cohesively tying these items together? It might not be a color, it could be a certain wicker texture, it could be green houseplants. Some things become neutrals, like whites and tans, depending on what pieces you have, but other times they can hold their own in a zigzag. So look at what you have, and are there any pieces that you can pull together cohesively through their color or texture to create your zigzag pattern? And you put these in place first, and then you fill in around with your neutrals. It makes such a huge difference. All of a sudden we have a game plan, and when you step back, you're gonna be so happy because it feels cohesive and like a pro designed it. And as long as we're still in the kitchen, I'm so excited to show you this new light fixture. But number 7 is to upgrade over time. So we've lived in our house for 8 years now, and we've slowly been remodeling over the years. It would have been super fun to make all the changes the first year we moved in, but it was not practical.
I feel like I just wired this in.
Really? It was 2019, I was just looking back, 2019 when we did our kitchen reveal. So
would that have been this time?
This one, yeah, so 5 years ago.
Wow.
5 years is pretty good for like a $15 light fixture.
Yeah, and I never
actually finished like
I never actually finished hanging this. It always hung a little crooked.
Yeah, but you couldn't really tell in video, so that's all that mattered.
That's not all that matters.
All right, your vision is about to become a reality.
I have been waiting and wanting to upgrade the light fixture. So this is the new one that I got. I've also been wanting to swap out the poles and stuff for gold, so we're midway with that. It's like a brushed goldish bronze. I know that's not for everyone, and it's fine. I know what I want, and that's one of McQuillan's rules too, but I am so excited about this. I think this is beautiful, and especially when we're trying to have a more minimal aesthetic and design, upgrading things like our light fixtures and our pulls. I've heard it said before that the pulls on your kitchen cabinets are jewelry for your kitchen, right? But again, they can be a little bit costly. And so it's something we can do over time, but it makes such a big impact, especially when we don't have a lot of other decor or stuff sitting out. So I'm so excited to get this swapped out with the gold pulls. One of my next tips, number 8, is that decluttering is a decorating tactic. It was so interesting when we were selling real estate, how many people just began to despise their homes. They're like, I just want to move. I just want a fresh start. I just want more storage and to not feel like our house is, the walls are closing in from us. But as they packed and got rid of stuff to move, it was amazing how many people began to fall in love with their homes again. Plus, once they're decluttered, we can see what we have to work with. Recognize, how are you feeling in your house? How have your design tastes changed and evolved over the years? Maybe what you liked in the past of, groupings of smaller things and in a more eclectic style, maybe now that just feels kind of loud and busy. Now, hear me though, I think we can still have plenty of style and make our homes feel cozy with less stuff. That's definitely what we've tried to achieve in our own home, but just recognize the season you're in, and maybe less will be so much more right now. Now, if you ever struggle with where to start, whether it's decluttering or decorating, tip number 9 is to start at the heart and work your way out. When everything in a home seems to need equal attention, and when things are functional but just look bad, I've learned one way to make progress is to start at the heart of the home and work my way out. You get to decide what the heart is for you. For us, it's usually the kitchen because we like to eat, I like to cook, and in our last few homes, the kitchen was located in the middle of the house like a central hub where we all wanted to hang out. And so for many of us, we really do need a good starting place. And for me, I'm always really motivated to go through and really highly declutter and simplify our room if it also means that I get to come back and then add some decorating touches or new hardware or a new light fixture. That is so fun. It's so fun to be able to fully refresh a space, and it feels so different than when you walk into it again. These little changes can make such a huge difference. So for you, what would you consider the heart of your home, and why not start there? Okay, I have tip number 10 here, which is our last official tip. I have a couple bonus ones because they're so good. We just can't stop there. But tip number 10 is so good. It's use white to fake bright and open. And this, again, I came by accidentally. There's been a lot of trial and error in my interior design over the years, but it's fun when you find something that really works. So when we did like the big remodel on our kitchen, we knew that we wanted to make it more white because it videos well. So my intention was to kind of just make our house like a video set, right? And especially in Minnesota in the winter, like even today, it's pretty gray outside. If I have white around me, it brightens it up and it videos really well. And so we started making more areas in our house more white and neutral. But we started adding white trim and white cabinets and white furniture. And the reason I was hesitant to do this in the past was, well, one, I felt like there was this like overblown design trend where everything was white. Like if you watched HGTV, everything was just white. And I'm like, I don't want to just be like everyone else. But also I thought, we live on a farm. How am I going to keep my house clean if everything is white? But again, I was willing to do it for the sake of video. But now I've realized like you can wash things and you can repaint them, and it hasn't been nearly as hard as I thought to maintain the light colors on our walls and the white trim. And so again, it was an accident that I became a buy this, but especially if your home is on the smaller side like ours is, white and light colors on the wall make everything feel bigger and brighter. I cannot believe what a huge difference this has made. Okay, then a couple bonus tips from McQuillan's book. Again, I will link this. This is her tip number 8, and it's to have one sane space. So whether you've just moved into a house, whether you're remodeling, whether you're decluttering but haven't got to your whole house, pick one area in your home, one spot that is your sane space, your spot where you get to go to. This space is your temporary respite away from or in the midst of the chaos of change. It doesn't need to be finished. It just needs to be cozy and functional. And so for me, this has been the chairs in our master bedroom, and I protect this space like no one's business. I don't let it get cluttered. I don't let stuff get piled up. I think this is so important for all of us. Oh, this one's so good too. Number 12 in McQuillan's book, admire, don't acquire. Wisdom is learning to appreciate things without trying to own them. And I've gotten so much better at this too, whether I'm clothes shopping or at Home Goods. I really can look at things and appreciate them, but not feel like I have to take them home with me. And then lastly is number 36, which is to quiet the house or hush the house. So we did this a little while back. I will link to that video when we did it to our kitchen. The comments were so good on it, and I know many of you have tried this. If you have not hushed a room in your house, watch that video, test it out. It's been so fun to hear all of the really positive reports from that. So again, that came from McQuillan. It's such a good tactic. I'm excited. We're actually gonna do it in the boys' bedroom coming up, and I know it is gonna be so good. And so I'm excited to share that with you as well. But let us know, what interior design tricks have you learned over the years? What has made your space feel cohesive and put together? And has decluttering been a design tactic for you as well? It's so fun to hear your stories down below. I love you. I hope you have a really good day, and I'll see you again soon.